Hey everybody, it's Dave with No Chaser, and today's topic is it's about being in a relationship. You're in a relationship, sweet, but you're in active alcoholism and addiction. Not sweet. And the other person is not. And they are not only they're not in active addiction or anything like that, but they are not an alcoholic or addict themselves. They are what is sometimes referred to as a normie, um, or just they're a non-drinker or user, or maybe they do, but they don't really do it that often. They don't have a problem with it, and you do, and shame on you. No, joking. Um, but it's an interesting dynamic. I'll also do a video if you've been in a relationship where you're an alcoholic and addict, and you're with the person who's an alcoholic and addict. I've lived many lives, so many fun times, but in this video, I'm talking about when you're with somebody who's not, and so probably first off the bat, you're doing a lot of sneaking, a lot of hiding. If the person cares about you and loves you, they don't want you to slowly kill yourself with drugs and alcohol. But you're like, I want to stop. Let me do this bad thing. No, but it's an interesting dynamic because one of the things is that you you have a lot of this shame because of your hiding and you're like you're let's say you're living with them, with your partner, your spouse. Maybe you have kids with them, maybe you don't, but you're doing a lot of strange things, like you're hiding stuff in your own house or apartment, or you're sneaking into your own house or apartment. You're sneaking out of it. You're almost like burglarizing yourself or breaking entering in your own place, and it's this weird, you truly start to live this sort of double life. Like, a lot of people that are super cool and addicted to drugs and alcohol, like yours truly, they'll start to isolate. They'll start to drink alone, use alone, and they maybe live alone. And, you can't get in trouble. You can't get caught. Unless you're really crazy drinking and bother the neighbors or whatever. But you're not gonna get in trouble. I mean, you're gonna get in trouble, like, just with your own problems, but you're not gonna get caught by anybody because you're by yourself. You're isolating, and man, addiction and isolation go together like hand in hand to destruction. And when you're with a person though, and now you're living, it's truly this sneaky sort of double life you're leaving, and it is like another. Some people say it's like a part-time job. It's like a full-time job. There's so much that you have to put into the sneaking and the hiding, because, like, let's say both of you work, or one of them raising the kids. Maybe you are, maybe the other person is, but you have to try to function in doing this thing where, like, not only are you have to do stuff, so you have to drink, or you have to use, or you have to acquire it, or you have to, like, transport it or get rid of it or be at a place to do it. But then also you are under the influence. So, I mean, you're constantly, let's see, what are you doing? You're doing the mouthwash, the the mints, the gum, the eye drops, the just all the sort of the cologne. You're just like, why are you always wearing cologne? Like, it's like Sunday and we're not going out to dinner, or you're not going on a date, are you? Why are you wearing cologne on 4 p.m. on a Sunday? Or you work at a warehouse. Why are you wearing cologne to the warehouse? And you're doing all this stuff to basically conceal this existence that you have. And one of the strangest things is, and this is what I was living for a while with somebody, was that they knew, let's say that when I was with them, I had gone to treatment, or I admitted I was an alcoholic and addict. They found out there's some sort of intervention, something, like, the cat's out of the bag. Why was it in the bag in the first place? But I mean, the secret is out. And then it's like a video game on, like, super difficulty, hard mode, where now they know, and you have to hide. And the craziest thing is, I was living this life where, in a way, they knew I was doing it, but I just had to hide it. And it was this sense of, there's so much lying going on, and it's like they know I'm lying, and it's almost like I'm lying as, like, a courtesy to them. Like, hey, I'm lying for you, all right? I'm not going to be rude enough just to be like, yeah, I'm drinking, whatever. So this is for you. All this hiding and sneaking and stuff, you know how hard it is? I'm doing this for you, babe. Like, don't you see what I'm doing here? it's this crazy sort of thing where you're putting up this facade because and you're doing all this lying, and in this way you almost it can get to the point where like you're resentful of the person's vigilance or care for you, because they're catching you, or they're questioning you, and it's making this thing that you want to do to just get by, to get high, to get drunk, just that you're addicted to doing, and they're making it hard for you. And it's this thing where you go back and forth where, like I said, you have this weird sort of resentment. Like, stop caring about me. Let me just slowly destroy myself. Or, and then you go back and you feel guilty. You feel awful. And just there's so much shame that can be in these, like, what I refer to as these quiet moments to yourself. You're doing these little sneaky things where you're filling a water bottle with vodka, or you have it like in your the underwear drawer, or you have to conceal, you're doing all the concealing, or you're in the car and you're like, they usually share a car, but when they do, you're like, oh my god, all the little bottles are shooters or something, they're gonna find them, and you're just all this crazy, you're taking the garbage out and you're hoping like the bottles don't clink. You're like, no more glass bottles, only plastic bottles from now on. No beer cans or anything, and you're just all this, you're like sneaking out trash, like you're like money laundering or something. And it's this just miserable existence. And it's the hardest part thing is that it's miserable for them too. And there's this, when I was in a relationship with this going on, it was like there was this sort of Cold War, or this sort of what I refer to as this staring contest. They knew I was up to something, and I knew that they knew. And it was like, which one of us was going to blink? Was I going to just be like, yeah, I'm drinking again, I'm using, I'm sorry? Or were they going to be like, hey, you're drinking again, you're using, I can't do this anymore? Like, when was one of us or will going to break? Because here's the other thing is, sometimes you think you're super sneaky, you're super Machiavellian, and I'm pulling all the puppet masters, pulling the strings, and no one knows my little secret life, like I'm a double agent. But they know, they're just not bringing it up because, why? Are you going to stop? It's just going to make things weird. It's just going to cause a fight. I remember when I was sober for a while with this person who I was drinking with, and then I became sober, we started having these talks about, I was like kind of questioning, like, how much did you know? How much, kind of like, how much was I getting away with? And I go, you weren't getting away with any of it. Sometimes I literally, I remember her saying one time, she was just like, we were just having a nice night, so I didn't want to ruin it. I knew you were drinking. Things were fine, I guess, or just, especially, you put kids in the mix, you're like raising kids, just like, I can't leave you right now. I can't just upend our lives. I just have to hope that you're gonna get it, or you're not gonna be too destructive, or just hope that you're gonna be functional. Like, it literally gets to that sort of levels of desperation for people. It's just like, I'm so attached to you. We are building this life together, and I can't sever it. And I love you. I care about you. I don't want to leave you. And it's this weird thing where they just kind of hope that you're going to get it, or sometimes they'll just start, they'll drop ultimatums, or they're like, you got to do something about it, and they'll go back on them because they love you, and they need you, and you need them. And there were so many times where, I mean, it was such this crap that I have where I was just like, I'm a piece of crap, I'm awful, why are you even with me? You should leave me. And then they'd just be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to leave you. I'd be like, what do you mean you're going to leave me? You have this guilt and this shame where they don't deserve this, but you don't deserve this. You're like, you didn't want to be an alcoholic or an addict, and you don't even want to live this way. Like, I can't tell you how many times it was like this conversation of like, why are you doing this? And I would just be like, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I wish I could tell you, like, if you think I'm having fun, this is super not fun. And if you think this is insane, guess what? We're both on the same page. I think this is insane. I can't stop. And that is such a difficult thing because, when there's problems in relationships, usually there's some sort of communication that can go on to where, like, all right, we'll compromise here. We can meet some sort of like agreement here, but when it comes to a person being addicted, I mean, truth be told, I'm sorry if you're in a relationship right now and you're going through like the act of using or drinking, but there's really not a compromise. The person doesn't deserve to be in a relationship. They don't deserve the treatment that they get, and you don't deserve the suffering that you have either. I want to make that clear. I really like to try to be fair about this stuff and be empathetic to the other side, where it is incredibly difficult to live with an alcoholic or an addict, and to be with them. But they don't, we don't want to be this way either. And so it's this weird thing where there is no sort of compromise. You have to stop, or have to remedy something, or you have to change in some way, but you just find that you can't. And so, how long does it go on? Literally, it comes to the point, it's like, to what end? And in one of my relationships, it was long. It lasted almost 8 years. And one of the things is that the funny thing was, what it couldn't survive was not just the drinking, but it couldn't survive just the sobriety and then the relapses. Because then it went into this sort of like incredibly hard stage where there was such hope and there was such promise of me being sober and being sober for a while and things getting better, and then I'd relapse. And so when I'd get sober again, it was hard to celebrate it because there was this weird sort of sense of deja vu where I was like, well, we've been here before. And I know she put up these walls, kind of understandably and deservedly so, and then the walls couldn't be pulled back down again. Especially after I've been sober over a year, almost a year and a half, and then I relapsed, and then it was done after that. Because then you're trying to get sober again, and then the walls were up, and they were not coming down. And who knows when they would come down? Who knows when trust would ever come back? Because it was just like, I don't know if you'll ever get this. And the worst part was like, I don't know if I will either. And so, it's I always think of it as, really, you have to look, you're going through your own suffering, and you don't deserve it. You didn't ask for it. So it's hard to be empathetic totally to the other side, because you're like, you may despise that I do this, and are so angry with me, and I'm angry with myself too. I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose you, and I don't want to be this way. But you gotta, I don't know. It's tough, and you have to give. Each side, I think, needs to give grace, and especially when you got children involved, it's hard, because you are not only needed for the love and companionship, but you're needed to do stuff to support and to help with this life that you started together. And especially, things aren't just okie dokie karaoke when you get sober. There's still many difficulties at life, and sometimes the dynamics of the relationship change in these ways that are almost unsustainable once the person gets sober. In this very weird way. I did a video about that too, where in this relationship that I referred to, where it couldn't handle the sobriety at times, which sounds weird, but because there was a dynamic set, and then when that changed, it wasn't all the things needed for me to change it to keep being sober. The person wasn't quite on board with, in this strange way. Difficult to explain. That's why I have another video for that. You can go through the catalog of that, or I'm just happy you're watching this video. Anyways, I have a podcast that I cover some of this stuff and a bunch of other fun existential, psychological, sociological topics with a lot of juvenile humor. I have a link for that in the video description. I have a book of poetry, and it's about the struggles of people affected with addiction, mental health issues, just suffering, trauma, all that stuff, fun stuff. You can buy that or get it for free, also in the video link description. Like, subscribe if you like, please, or don't. I don't want to be beggy here. Other than that, thanks for watching, and be well.